Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today at Levittown Public Library, EGOSCU class with Kim. Today is Monday, June 14th, or approximately 11 a.m. Go ahead, Kim.
Thank you so much. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be doing some posture stuff today. For those of you that are seeing this on the YouTube video, EGOSCU just means posture. Anybody that's new, we're going to be doing some stimulating moves that help your body realign itself. So don't overthink any of these moves. Just do them as I cue them to you. And hey, if you do it wrong, that's okay too, because a lot of people have learned all of this stuff from books, and I'm sure they're messing it up and they're helping themselves. Just by giving yourselves a different type of movement, your body will readjust itself. For your newbies, I know there's a lot of you out there. Make sure that you pay attention to yourself. So if something hurts, something doesn't feel right, just stop the movement or stop the exercise. I'll usually move on within a couple of minutes anyway, sometimes within seconds. So just stick around. You may find 2, 3, 4, or maybe 20 moves that actually work for you today. So stick around to the end. I encourage you. Today, we're going to be using a couple of tools. One is going to be a chair or a block like I have here. It's about hip height, maybe 26 inches. Use a chair, and ottoman works really well. Other thing that I'm going to be using is a block. If you guys got yoga blocks, those work too. The other thing is taking a pillow off of your bed. Really simple, but there's a lot of resistance on this. It doesn't compress all the way. So if you're using a pillow, fold it in half or in thirds when we do use it. Other thing we're going to be using today is a belt. So make sure your belt, your block, and your chair is nearby. This is not a woman's fashion belt. This is also not a PT rubber strap. You want to have a lot of resistance. So take a real belt off of your pants and loop it up. We're going to be using that today. We're going to start out with a really easy one, everybody. I'm going to have everybody laying down on their back, and we're going to put the legs up in static back. I'm going to stay there for 5 minutes. For those of you that can't do static back, you can absolutely sit in a chair and just walk your tailbone all the way to the back of the chair so that the chair can help you sit upright. We want to trap the body in a 90-degree angle. If you're uncomfortable getting on the floor, but you can get on the floor, my suggestion is to get on the floor. Get on the floor. You don't want that to become a scary place. We're staying here for 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I do have some clients in the past who I have done this on a bed with them. But again, it's not quite trapping the body in 90 degrees if the bed is slumping, things like that. So when you trap the body using the floor and using a block, it's actually going to force the body to recruit different muscles. And that's what we're going after here. I lay with my arms out at 45 degrees and my palms up. This is a really nice move. Everybody really loves this move, but it's not easy for everybody. If your shoulders are rounded so far that your head is turning back away from you, may I suggest putting something underneath your head so that it can keep your head in a more neutral position. When that happens, the shoulders will be able to relax. If the head is being pulled back here, the neck is going to get tight, and we're not going to get the effects that we're looking for. So this is static back. It looks like I'm sitting in a chair, really, just a really upright chair. This can be done by trapping your body against the wall with a chair. If you don't have a back that's solid, you can do that. Just hanging out here for 5 minutes so I can gather my thoughts as to what types of torture I'll give you today. No, I promised I wouldn't beat you guys up. Not too bad. But some of you did request a few moves, and you're going to see those moves today. If this is the first time for some of you being in static back, I want you to make sure that your legs are actually in a 90-degree angle. Some of you might be putting your legs up on a bed and your legs will end up here. It's not quite the same thing. So if your legs are too high and your heels are higher than your knees, may I suggest finding a chair and putting your legs up on the chair. If the chair is too low and your heels are dropping towards your butt, it's also not the same thing. Pile up some pillows, use some newspapers, use some books, find something. You want to trap the legs at 90 degrees, as close to 90 as you can. There's a reason for that. I'm not going to tell you. There's a reason. We got a couple more minutes. I guess I'll tell them. Tell the audience, Kim. You have a right side, you have a left side, and for the most part, we've got the same muscles on the left as we do on the right, correct? We're pretty symmetrical. Our organs are a little different in there, but they're placed in a way that's just divinely proportioned, right? So when our body starts to adapt to an asymmetrical lifestyle, it starts to give us signals of tightness and tension and sometimes pain. And then you show up at my doorstep and say, Kim, I need a posture therapist. Take my picture. Let's see where I'm at. And I notice one shoulder is up in your ear, one foot's turned out, one hip is higher than the other, one side of your pelvis is rotated. So we need to stimulate the body in a way that it can find its balance, left, right, front, back. And this is one of the moves that'll help do that. That's why 90 degrees is usually a good rule of thumb to adhere to using the Egoscue method. Not always, not all of our moves are 90 degrees, but if you think about that, then it'll help you keep your form, and you'll also understand what I'm going after with each exercise. All right, we're going to spend one more minute here, even less now. Even less. There's a lot of moves that I can't show you that Egoscue uses or has used in the past. There's about 500 moves, 500 Egoscue moves. And some of them are really intense. Not everybody can do them. They're compound moves that are pretty difficult to do. You have to have a pretty functional body in order to get them done. And some of the moves just have things like a weight, something like that, or bed, or really odd position using a bed. So I can't always show that because I don't have the bed here. But I'll do my best to give you some new ones today because I'm getting bored. Take yourself to a standing position if that's all right. We're going to do a windmill, everybody. You can do windmill standing. You can do windmill sitting in a chair. If you don't want to stand, you can sit in a chair. If you have a nice flat wall that you can back up against, go ahead and do that. If you don't, like me, because I've got the heater down here, I can't back up completely against this wall. So I'm going to pretend that I'm on the wall. I'm going to stand with my feet hip distance. It's about a fist distance between my big toes. So I want my knees to line up with my hips. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to bring my arms out to a T. I'm going to open my hands. I'm thinking about my thumb and my pinky grazing the wall or the imaginary wall. I'm moving only through my waist, doing this tick-tock motion back and forth. Heels stay on the floor, ladies and gentlemen. You can do this sitting in a chair. In fact, some of you that have a hip dysfunction or a hip elevation, I might trap you by sticking you in a chair and doing this move. But today we're going to do this move standing, which means we've got 40 reps. And we're going to do them in different leg positions. Make sure your butt isn't slipping back and forth. I'm not sliding my hips. My hips stay right over my heels. I'm moving through my waist. I'm also not moving through my shoulders. I'm going to take the second position. So I'm opening up my feet about 1.5 to 2 feet wide. I'm still keeping my feet parallel. There's a reason for that. It's going to turn on your hips in a new way. Thumbs and pinkies, think about them grazing the wall. Back and forth. I used to have one student over at Synergy when it used to be open, and he would do the move like this. Bob, come on, slow down. So if you go slow enough, it's going to force your muscles to turn on, and you're going to feel that challenge. It's going to force them to actually change, because if you pause just a bit, the muscles have to hold, and they're going to remember. You bounce through it, it's going to react in a different way. Now I'm spreading my legs as wide as I can go while still staying in control. This might be pretty wide for some of you. You might not even be able to get to that. Go as wide as you can go, stay in control. Thumb and pinky grazing your imaginary wall or your actual wall. My feet are still parallel, everybody. So I really want you to take a look down at your feet. And if you see one foot's turning out and the other one's kind of turning out, bring them in. Bring them in. Just because my feet are parallel and just because I said it doesn't mean that you actually look down to check yourself. Check yourself. And my messed up shoulder is throwing my hips off so bad. I can feel such a difference between left and right in my hips. Anybody else feel that difference? Anybody else feel your shoulders getting tired? Come back to the first position. It's all right. Tired's okay. New muscles waking up. Keep the heels down. I know when you lean over, the leg wants to lift up. That's called a compensation here. That's you coming out of form. I want you to keep form. That's going to help us trap the muscles. Force them to work. If you can't do this many with me, then give yourself a break. Do a couple. This is a new move to a few of you. Right. Pretend that you're looking at me through the wall. I'm going to show you what it looks like, me leaning into a wall. So my feet are still pointed straight ahead. I'm going to bring my palms to this position. We're going to do forearm stretch next. Palms to this position, but I'm going to trap them against the wall. Some of you are going to have a hard time doing this. So if it's too much on your wrists, you're just going to lower your hands down the wall. The other option is to space your hands a little wider than shoulder, but I'd rather you just bring them lower. Because what we want to do is trap the shoulders and the elbows in as close to a 90-degree position as we can. So I'm going to turn, face my wall or door. You could use a door, absolutely. And I'm going to come forearms distance away from the wall and place my hands on the wall. And watch what I'm going to do. When I lean in, I'm not going to lean in with my hips. I'm not going to lean in with my head. Watch my shoulders. My shoulders come back and down. This is all I'm doing is trapping my arms and loading my hips. We're going to hang out here for 1 minute, everybody. 1 minute. Again, if it's bothering your wrist, just slide your hands further down the wall. Maybe you have to come here. But wherever you are, I want you to retract your shoulders. So when you lean in, your shoulders articulate back. You don't bail your hips forward. I still want to stay trapped as if I'm standing up. That's it. I'm just standing upright, leaning in with my shoulders coming back and down. I used to do some stand-up jet skiing. I've had to take a break from that for a while. But if I'd land a little bit off, hanging on to those handles, they wouldn't turn all the way and they would jam. And if the handles would jam and I'd land coming out of a wave, I jammed my thumb and my wrist many times. And this was the move that helped me get back. It was all swollen in my thumb and my wrist, but this helped me get back. So my right wrist, not quite the same as the other, but this helped me get back. It's a good one. Good, everybody, come on out of that. I'm going to take you guys to the floor. We're going to do something called femur rotations. If you can't get to the floor, you can definitely get this done sitting in a chair. So you could sit in a chair and you could put your legs up on the couch in front of you and you could get these done that way. But for me, I'm coming onto the floor. I do have that tendency to have a flat lower back. So every time I come onto the floor and I can, I'm going to take a roll and stick it underneath my lower back. This is not for everybody. If you're new and you've never seen this before, don't use the roll because you're not going to be quite sure how to use it, how high. So if you have been using those rolled up towels, everybody, and you know what I'm talking about, you know you have a flat lower back and this feels good to you, go ahead and roll up the towel. I'm going to extend my left leg out straight. I'm going to leave my right leg bent. Right leg is going to stay bent here. When I leave my left leg straight, I'm going to tighten my thigh. I want to hold it straight. All the movement is going to come from my left hip. I rotate in and out from the hip. So if you were to look at my foot is actually going to go back and forth, but that's not coming from my foot. It's coming from my hip. Whole leg is locked in place, locked in place. So think about that when you're doing this. Leg has to stay locked in place. I don't want you moving your foot. I want you to keep that ankle in dorsiflexion, meaning pull the toes towards you. It's like you're pushing your heel away from you. You're trying to reach to the opposite wall. That's also going to help you keep the leg straight. Turn as much as you can from the hip. That's why I like putting my hand on my hip, reminding myself to use that muscle, or those muscles rather, to turn in and out. That's where the movement comes from. Do not bend your knee. I love it when I see people turn so much outwards that the hip stops and then they start bending their knee to complete the action. Try not to do that. We want to remind the hip that it should be doing this. I'm going to switch legs. In, out, in, out. If you get this from a therapist, usually the count is 3 sets of 20 each leg. Every time you turn out and turn in counts as 1. So if you're doing this later at home, where you notice that, wow, this really helps me a lot. I feel much better. I stand straighter, I stand taller when I'm done with this, or this is a beneficial move to me, then definitely get it done every day. Try to give yourself 3 sets of 20. I'm going to switch my legs again. I've gotten into the habit of no longer counting. No longer counting. I'm kind of counting. I've just got this timing thing going. After you do this for enough years, you know about timing. You can guess. You guys are probably up to 15 now, right? Or you're up to 10 now. In and out. If you're not sure if your foot is moving or not, pick your head up and look at it. Pick your head up and look. You want to make sure that you're not moving from your ankle. You want to keep that still. Gosh, I miss in-person classes. I loved walking around and making sure everybody's form was right. Switch your legs. When I used to go to Egoscue in California, I loved taking their classes. They started teaching group classes the last year I was there. And I loved laying down and having somebody else watch me. Hey, Kim, you could do this a little differently. Ooh, look at that. That changes this, changes things. It's great to have another pair of eyes. But again, like I said, even if you screw this up, this is a type of stimulus that you don't give yourself daily, unless you've got me with a wet noodle whipping you guys into shape. This is one of my favorite moves. I love femur rotations. There's a gentler version of this, and it's called knee drops. Let's switch one more time, everybody. One more round. One more time. Rotating from your hip. Whole leg is nice and straight and still. Only thing that's moving is from your hip. Glad you guys are here with me today. It's a good day. Anybody starting to feel this in their lower back, starting to feel this in their butt? These are good things. When you start noticing, sensation is changing, it's moving around. Switching. That's change. This is what we're looking for. It doesn't take much. Of course, some people's postures have been in such a state for years, sometimes decades. It may take a while for it to stay in place, but usually changes happen within 2 or 3 moves. I'm sure if you go Egoscue before and after, you search that, you're going to find some of the photos over the years of some incredible changes over one session of Egoscue, one session, because the body remembers. It wants to right itself. Okay, we're going to go into knee drops now, everybody. So bend both of your knees. I want you to keep your feet parallel. Wherever you stance your feet, keep them parallel. If you stance your feet narrower, you're going to get more external rotation. My suggestion is to stance your feet a little bit wider than hip distance and check that out. That's going to give us a little more internal rotation, but I want you guys to find a little bit of a challenge for yourselves. This is not a frog move. So stance them hip distance and then maybe a little bit wider than hip distance. Just leave your arms relaxed and I'm dropping my knees to the right and to the left, back and forth. Feet are going to stay parallel to the best of my ability. As you go through this, your feet are going to start to invert. They're going to point outwards in different directions. Usually every 10 reps or so, I'm checking my feet and making sure they're staying parallel. I do keep my toes on the ground, meaning I'm not lifting my heels and pivoting over my heels. I'm going to the inside and outside edges of my feet, yes. But if you keep some contact with the ground, with your toes, it's going to fire up the arches of your feet. And we're going after that as well. Keep driving from your pelvis. I want you to actually drive from your hips rather. Also, the wider you stance your feet, the more separation we're going to get out of your pelvis. If you stance your feet pretty narrow, your pelvis is going to keep moving as one big unit. So if we stance the feet a little wider, it's actually going to separate the pelvis and it's going to start breaking up and turning the way it's supposed to. It's not rotation, it's actually tilt that I'm going after. Keep driving from your hip. Yes, your butt is going to come up off the floor. The goal is to bring it to so the knees are coming close to the floor. Maybe they're not going to touch the floor, but I want you to try and bring the knees towards the floor. Shoulders stay on. Lovely. So we got a lot of rotation out of here. I'm going to give you another move called the cross crawl. Again, if you can't lay on the floor, you can definitely get these moves done sitting in a chair. But for cross crawl, you might want to stand up for it. So cross crawl is laying on the floor. It's going to look ugly on my left side because of my shoulder, but that's all right. We all show up with different stuff. I'm going to bring my left leg, bring my knee in towards my chest. Heel stays so that my shin is parallel and my right arm goes up and backwards behind me and back down. Right leg, left arm, and back down. If you were to do this standing, it would look like so. It can be a little bit harder standing, easier in some ways, but when you do it, everybody, especially with the hip, I want you to make sure when you bring the knee in towards your chest, you don't dive the knee out to the side. We do not want to rotate through the hip. You want to bring it straight up, straight up, straight up to your chest. Arm and leg move simultaneously. Try not to drop your heel to your butt. You want to keep the shin parallel. As soon as the heel drops to the butt, the hip shuts down in a lot of ways, So keep your shin parallel. This movement helps clean up your gait pattern by waking up the hip flexor. We work in the transverse plane when we walk. We are bilateral beings, meaning we have two legs that we walk on and we walk that way. We are not quadrupeds, that would be a dog. When we take a step with our left leg, the right arm should be swinging forward. In the past, I might have brought a video to class of a wonderful athlete who was so off in his posture and in his gait in the Olympics that he actually broke his lower leg upon landing. It was an excellent video, and I slow it down again and again and again so we could break down what's wrong with his gait and why did his leg break just by landing on it. It wasn't an accident. His muscles weren't working properly, and all of that force went down into his leg. His leg said, I can't take it anymore. Boom. His gait was horrible, but he was an Olympic athlete. Amazing, right? I'm going to move on to the hip crossover stretch. Yes. I'm going to bring the arms out to a T with the palms face down if you can. This is tough for a lot of you guys. So if that's hard and you feel a lot of it in your forearms, turn your palms up. I'm going to bend both of the knees. Keep the feet hip distance, just like it was when we were standing. Hip distance. I'm going to cross my right ankle, my left knee. I'm going to show you a different a different angle on this one for the newbies. When you cross the ankle to the knee, I don't want you to slide the foot. Everybody tends to slide the foot when they're new. So you cross the ankle to the knee. If this is as far as you can go, then stay here. If you're ready to come with me, I want you to twist through your lower back and the legs will fall to the left. But don't slide the leg. If you slide the leg, that's your hip avoiding all of that work. Try to stay hip distance, cross the ankle, twist. I'm gonna hold here for 1 minute. My right knee is pointing up to the ceiling. I'm using muscles in my hip that I just woke up to do that. Don't let the knee flop in. It's not so much a twist for your lower back as it is that and an activation through your hips. I'm going to look in the opposite direction of my twist. And there's another nuance here for you guys who want to go a little bit more advanced. You want to make sure that your foot is tracking in the same direction as your knee. And my foot always tracked outward. So if you actually pull the foot straight, you might even feel some cramping in the arch of your foot. Make sure your foot is tracking in the same direction as your knee. The other thing you guys who are advanced people can think about is if you've got enough range of motion, so you could draw your knee away from you a lot so that the instep comes off the floor, I want you to keep pushing the instep into the floor while you open through the hip. So I've got a lot of range of motion. I can rotate so much my foot comes off of the floor. But I want to keep the foot on the floor. So keep that pressure there while you rotate out. Good work. Okay, we're switching. When you switch, make sure you start clean again. So I keep my knees bent, feet are parallel, hip distance, left ankle to right knee. If that's as far as you can go, just stay there, but I'm coming further. I'm twisting. 1 minute. Whew. Now, this one's hard on my shoulder. Anybody else feel that? A little different in your shoulder on one side or in your back on one side? That's the asymmetry I was talking about earlier. Our body is a smart cookie. It's a lazy POS. There's something that the body always wants to do. It wants to be efficient. It's always trying to be efficient by keeping energy for itself. It's not going to overexert itself anywhere. So if it notices that it can shut some muscles, muscle systems down, it will. Over the long run, that's not helpful for us, but in the short run, it is. If we're sitting all day, it's going to say, hey, let's conserve some energy, and we'll shut this down, we'll shut that down, we'll shut that down. After a while, the nervous system doesn't remember how to recruit them. That's why you come to classes like this. Come on out, everybody. We're going to do pelvic tilts next. Knees stay bent. We are in the hook line position. You're going to rock your pelvis back and forth. Shoulders stay relaxed, arms stay relaxed. So I'm tucking under so my lower back hits the floor, and I arch backwards so my lower back comes off of the floor. Back and forth, back and forth. It is not a bridge, so I'm not lifting my butt off of the floor. My legs are very light. I'm not pushing into the floor with my legs really hard. I'm trying to drive from my hips, the hips themselves, with the pelvis to come back and forth. One direction is probably going to be a little more difficult for you than the other. It shouldn't be. No, as per design, both directions should be equally accessible for you. But, you know, stuff happens. Stuff happens. I want you guys to grab your block or your pillow. And I also want you to grab your strap. We're going to use those for our next sequence. And like I told you, I'm going to have to stick in some new stuff because I'm bored. We're going to start out with just straight knee pillow squeezes. And then we're going to add on to these. Okay. Again, if you like using that roll on your lower back, and you've been with me long enough, you know what that thing is for, I would stick that roll right back in again. So we're going to be laying here for a few exercises. I'm going to put the pillow right between my knees and think like Thigh Master. Squeeze your knees on the pillow and release. Squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. Keep that strap nearby because we're going to start to utilize it. One of my clients, he can only do this move with a strap or with a block. He can't combine the two. So I'm going to give you guys that option. These are knee pillow squeezes. And then we're going to start combining the two, meaning I'm going to put the pillow between your knees. But I'm not me, but you. I'm going to put the pillow between your knees. And the strap's going to go around your ankles. And we're going to try and do this push-pull. It's a combination move, and it's a great move. And I'll give you a break, and then I'll hit you hard again. Stay here for another minute. And just keep on going, squeeze and release. Muscles that you should be feeling turning on here. Inner thighs, definitely. Groin area. If you don't feel those, that's okay. You're probably in a lot of compensation. You might need to stay here for 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, repeating this over and over. You might have to get into a different position in order to get the right muscles to turn on. But it's not going to kill you if they don't turn on today. It's okay. It may take some time. But if you think about it, if the right muscles aren't turning on here, and we're trying to go after the hip flexor, if you bring a body into even deeper hip flexion, like here, and you start doing the move, they will definitely turn on. Definitely turn on. So I may have to regress you. Okay, I'm going to switch it out for the strap now. Put the strap around your knees. Put it on like a dress, like a hoop. Put your feet through the hoop. And tighten it up around your knees so you have hip distance between both of your knee joints. So knees, hips, hip distance, about a fist. A little bit bigger than a fist, everybody. A little bigger than a fist. Now proceed to push out onto the strap and release. Logic would tell you that we're using completely opposite muscles. Before we were pushing in, now we're pushing out. So instead of feeling inner thighs, you would probably feel more on the outsides of the legs, maybe even in the tops of your thighs in the just beginning. But ultimately, you want to start feeling this in the glutes in your butt. Here's a little caveat. For a long time, I was tightening the strap a little bit too much, and my knees were a little more internal rather than being hip distance. So a little too narrow. And I wasn't able to recruit the glutes at all. Wasn't able to feel my hip at all in this move. So if that's you and you've gone through maybe 15 of them at this point, maybe 20, maybe loosen up the strap a little bit and just see. If you push out on the strap, does it feel different if you give yourself another inch, maybe? This can definitely be done sitting in a chair, everybody. So if you cannot do this on the floor, sit in a chair and put a block between your knees. Sit in a chair and put a strap around your legs. It's very simple to do that. I don't care what position you're in. Just get creative enough to do something. Do something. We're going to start adding in block and strap. Block and strap, everybody. So get ready. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's going to start getting tough here. And we're going to start adding some lifts as well. Some of you have mentioned to me in the past when we did some of the lifting, it actually caused you some pain the day after. If that's you, then skip the lift for today. All right. I am going to slide the strap down to my ankles. I also have to tighten up the strap because you want the ankles to be hip distance again. About the length of a dollar bill between the very center points of your ankles. That's it, length of a dollar bill. Now the strap is slid down towards your ankles. Put the block in between your knees. You guessed it. We're going to put the two exercises together. Now the thing is, you want to keep your feet parallel. I don't want you to invert your feet. So just because we're putting pressure outward on the strap doesn't mean you rotate. Actually, it's just called eversion. You don't want to evert your feet. Keep them on the train tracks. So I push in with my knees at the same time, or as close to the same time as I can do it. I push out on the strap, and then I let go. Engage, let go. Engage, let go. This is tough for some of you who are just getting used to this move. This is the double switch. So if this is brand new to you, may I suggest pushing out on the strap first, and you'll notice the knees automatically want to go in anyway. So that's a way to kind of gain that simultaneous action. The other thing is, and I am so, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm so guilty. I'm so guilty of this. Pushing too hard. Okay. So give 50%, give 30% of your effort. This is about balance. So the harder you push, the more muscles we start recruiting that we don't want. So just give a little push. This is about balance. So push out on the strap, and at the same time, the knees come in just a little bit. I'm going to give you enough of these to give you a nice, tired, worked out feeling, so you don't have to push too hard. All right, we're going to add the kicker here, everybody. I want you to push in with the knees, push out on the strap, just apply that tension, hold it, and we're going to lift about 2 to 6 inches off of the floor, but I'm going to lift from my hips. So I'm lifting my feet off of the floor from my hips. I'm not moving through my knees. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. So apply the pressure in both directions, lift, lower. If you're getting warning bells and your body's saying, ow, then stop. Don't do that. Don't do the lift. Or go back to one of the easier exercises where we just use the strap on the knees, or we just use the block on the knees. Usually my left side is weaker in this exercise than my right. Rolls have flip-flopped in the past weeks for me. My right side feels so weak. Does anybody else feel that? That one side might be shaking, or you might even get some cramping now. One hip might be cramping. If you can push through a cramp, go ahead and push through it. It's just a muscle that might be weak. Especially since we're doing Egoscue exercises, I love cramps because that shows me muscles that have shut down. If it's a cramp that you have all the time, then that may not be the case. But I like pushing through my cramps because I know what these cramps mean when I'm in the different exercises. I've just been doing them so long, I know what they're telling me. We're going to switch and put the strap up above the knees, and you're going to put the block right between your feet. Same idea here. You want to keep the feet parallel, and the pillow or block, whatever it is going to help keep it parallel. But I catch a lot of people whose hips have shut down. They start to monkey foot this. And I mean, they start to grab the block or pillow with the bottoms of their feet. No. Keep the feet flat. I want this to come from the hips. So we're gliding the feet inward. It's not for the feet to grab like hands. Try not to monkey foot this. Okay, my knees press out on the strap or the belt, and my ankles, my instep, and my big toes glide in. I'm not a big fan of doing this move first because as the knees press out, you guys might notice that one leg loves to take over and it pulls the other leg. So I try to get as much symmetry between both hips before I move on to a strap knee exercise. Wow. I just noticed how shut down my glutes are, and I'm trying to use my mid back to do this funny lift. Dial it down if that's happening to you and you're noticing you're using a lot of your back. I want your back to be relaxed here. Back, relax. Give less effort, Kim. Less effort. Okay. Yeah, you know what I'm noticing for me? I don't think I'd be able to actually do this move anymore in this position. My back is trying to overwork so much. I'm like lifting my sternum. I think what I have to do is take my roll out or maybe even trap my legs against the wall like this, because then my back can't do anything. It would never be able to do that lifting. You guys see the process that takes place here? So if you know what muscles are supposed to be doing the work here, this is all hips. Knees come out, so we're looking for glutes, the butt. That's what should be doing the work here, everybody. So when I notice I'm trying to lift my back and compensate, I'm thinking of ways to shut my back down and force my hips to do that work. Interesting how this stuff works, right? Okay, I'm going to add the lift, everybody. So the ankles go in, the knees press out, just a little bit of pressure, lift and lower. Remember, lift from your hips. Don't move through your knees. And if this is bothering you, just stop doing the lift. Don't do it. Go back to a move that you liked before. Maybe go back to static back. Something hurts, something's bothering you. Go back to static back. Lovely. Okay. I'm going to give you one more hard, stretchy move, and then I'll give you a nice, easy move after. I was going to give you an easy move and then a hard move, but I'm going to switch it now. Okay, we are going to do the crocodile. We're going to do crocodile. Crocodile is laying on your back, arms out to a T with the palms face down. If you want to do this standing up, you can go ahead and get this done standing up. I want you to think about nice and long. So I'll show you what it looks like in my standing position, so you guys who are new can get it on the floor. So pretend I'm laying on the floor. I am going to keep my feet hip distance. I'm going to put my right foot in front of my left, and I'm going to slip my Achilles tendon in between my first and second toe on the bottom leg. So this is where my setup is. This is what I'm going to look like laying on the floor. I'm laying on the floor. Here's where the work comes in, everybody. Right foot's on top. I want you to be really straight from your hips down. Tighten your thighs, squeeze your butt. Now we're going to rotate our lower half to the left. So whatever foot's on top, my right foot's on top, I'm going to twist to my left. I'm going to hold it for 1 minute. I know I make that look really pretty. This is not an easy move. Your knees should not be bending. Don't bend your knees to try to get to the position and then try to straighten them. That's no. I want you to start out with your legs straight, your thighs tight, your butt squeezing, twist through your waist to get your hips to rotate. That's it. So my pelvis is rotating. It's not actually your hips that are rotating. They're staying in place. My palms are down. Don't push through the floor using your hands to get this to go. I want you to use the muscles all through your torso to do this. When I first tried this years ago, I couldn't even get my butt up off the floor. This was impossible for me. Thighs tight, no knee bends. Bottom knee must stay straight. Straighten that sucker. If it's bent on you, straighten it. 3, 2, 1, done. Oh, wait, you're not done. We've got the other side. Laying down, put your left foot on top, toes touch your heel. I slip my Achilles tendon between my first and second toe. Engage, thighs tight, butt squeezes, twist through your waist. Oh, whew. That side's different. Whew. Keep tightening your thighs, keep squeezing your butt cheeks. I lose the butt cheek squeeze after a few seconds, so I'm reminding myself, this move is called the crocodile. Can you get it done standing? I'm going to show you when we get up in a second. I'm going to show you a different move that involves your shoulders. 20 seconds. You can do it, Kim. Like I'm working out with myself here. Thighs tight, everybody. Squeeze your butt cheeks. Keep twisting. Keep twisting. 10, 9, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on out. Whew. All right, now the easy move, frog. We're going to add some shoulder work to it as well. When you do frog, you're going to lay on your back. You can do it sitting in a chair, sure. You're going to take the soles of the feet together and just let your legs fall. We're going to lay here for 2 minutes. I'm using my roll just because, and I told you the whole time, I want my body to remember S-curve belongs in my lumbar. I'm going to stay here for the first minute in frog position. No, your knees don't have to hit the floor. I know a lot of people watch me do frog, and I've got that range of motion where my knees come very close to the floor. Your knees might look like this. I don't know, maybe even your knees might even be off. You might have one knee that comes higher than the other. That's just due to some restrictions in your hips and things like that. But again, this is just stimulating your body in ways you don't normally do it, so your body can over time correct itself. To this move, we're going to add a little bit of pullovers. Let's do another 20 seconds. Pullovers look like this. You're going to reach the hands up to the sky, interlace the fingers, palms are touching. Keep your elbows straight, drop the arms backwards overhead, bring them over your chest. Elbows stay straight. I used to be able to hit the floor. You may be able to hit the floor. But if you're not hitting the floor like I am now, I'm not bending my elbows so that I can hit the floor. That's called cheating. Don't do it. I have to retrain my left arm how to go through this range of motion again. But I'm not cheating with it. I'm keeping my elbow straight. Your arm is connected to your back, connected all the way down to your pelvis. That's why a lot of times when people have a walking issue, I'll have them do something different with their shoulders, and all of a sudden, hey, it's different because the body works as a unit. Fantastic. All right, before we run out of time, I'm going to flip you guys over. We're going to do a half reverse skydiver. I'm not going to even get involved in the lower half. We're just going to do the upper half of it. So I'm going to lay face down. If you can't do this, you might put your nose on the wall and face the wall if you have to stand up. I'm going to take my fists into the floor. Fist into the floor with my arms face down is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to keep everything at 90-degree angles. It's like the reverse press, except I'm face down doing it. So I'm right here. Hang out here for a minute. I wasn't able to do this in the past, but I'm okay now. Okay, hang out here for a minute, everybody. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and release. Squeeze them together and release. You'll feel already that having the fists in this position actually causes your shoulder blades to go back and down anyway. If this is too uncomfortable for you, just wait a second or a few seconds. We're going to change it. There's another part to this that involves doing work into the hips, but I think it's a little too involved to tell you, so it's okay to just do half of it. And that's what we're doing with this move. Doing the upper half. I'm going to do a similar move on the wall as soon as we stand up. Or come to our knees instead. We're going to do a kneeling Aztec. Fantastic. Okay, if kneeling is not your thing, you can go ahead and stand and do this move, but I'm going to do it kneeling. And this is a strong move, everybody. This is a very strong move. It's not easy. So I'm kneeling facing the wall. I'm going to tuck my toes. So my toes are touching the floor, not my toenails. I'm going to place my hands on the wall wider than I almost said boob distance, but not everybody's got those. So we're going to put them wider than the shoulder. So we're going to push in using our legs, and I'm going to respond by pushing away using my hands. So nice and wide, about chest height, about nipple height here, everybody. So nice wide stance. Let me show you from the other wall. So I'm right here, nice and wide, so you could feel your shoulders go back and down. Toes are tucked. I use my legs to push my face into the wall, but instead of moving into the wall, I'm going to resist it using my arms. So there's a push-pull going on, and then I relax. Push-pull, push-pull. So I'm using my legs to push me into the wall, but I am resisting that push using my arms. And you'll feel your shoulders go back and down every time you turn your legs on to force your body into the wall. Everybody feel that? It's an isometric exercise. Not actually moving anywhere, but muscles are turning on. This is called the kneeling Aztec. Wonderful. Before we completely run out of time, I'm going to do a couple more. And then I'm going to send everybody off with, we're supposed to do triangle. Let's do a triangle. We'll do a 30-second triangle and a 30-second air bench. Let's do it. If you don't have a nice wall to get against, bring your imaginary wall. Legs split nice and wide, feet are parallel. Now I'm going to turn my right foot out. So my right foot points out to the right. Knees are going to stay nice and straight, everybody. Think like a baby. I got to put a baby on my hip. I'm sitting my left hip out to the side. You're going to start feeling that stretch into your right groin. Lean over into it. Going to hang out here for 5 breaths, nice and slow. That's usually 30 seconds. Thighs nice and tight, everybody. Thighs are tight. Thighs are tight. Keep sitting the baby on that hip. We're going to do the other side. Come out nice and safe. Feet start out parallel. Now I'm going to turn my left foot to the left. So my feet are perpendicular. I'm sitting the baby on my right hip this time. Feel the stretch right in the groin. Lean it over. 5 breaths. Don't pant on me. Your 5 breaths should be nice and slow. Now, if you need to get that air, get the air. Your body's telling you need it. Good. Air bench. You're sitting against the wall in the imaginary chair. 5 breaths. Put your feet out further than your knees. You don't have to go low. Just push your lower back into the wall using your legs. Make sure your knees stay in line with your hips, everybody. Knees stay in line with your hips. This is a tough move. It's a strengthening move. Whew. Almost forgot that triangle, but I remembered. Got it. Fantastic. Come on out, everybody. Well, I hope that wasn't too terrible for you. But if it was, go ahead and leave your complaints in the comments. I'll be sure to ignore them. If you had a good time or you have any questions, leave me some questions in the comments in the YouTube videos. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining me.